זה שיר פשוט, זה שיר קצר, אולי נשמע טיפה מוזר, אבל תדע, כי זו עובדה, שאלוהים אוהב אותך, והוא רואה, והוא שומע.
Why is it always my mouth that gets me in trouble? You know, when I read this week's Parsha, I'm encouraged that I'm not the only one. And it sounds like we all know that one of the hardest things to tame is our tongue. So welcome to my world, y'all. Okay. Leaders, this one is going to be one for you also. And also, can gratitude really fix everything? I don't know. And what is our mouth causing us to miss out on? What blessings? What are we missing out on? If you're listening to me live, welcome. I would love to hear from you. Let me know if you're having any trouble hearing. I love seeing that you're with me, and say hello if you're listening later. Would you please leave a comment, share, like, subscribe? It really matters. It actually helps. There's these crazy things called algorithms, and they actually share your stuff with people. So it lets other people know and hear. So I love that. So hello, I'm Charlie Brown, and I love teaching the practical application of his word and leadership. Love it, love it, love it. But let's dive into this week's portion, okay? It's Beha'alotcha. Who can say that 45? Let's just say it twice fast. Beha'alotcha. Alacha. Beha'alotcha. Alacha. There we go. Let's one more time. Beha'alotcha. All right. Numbers 8:1 through 12:16. That's easier to say. So much in this. So much in this. We're just going to be skimming the surface. We're going to be talking about, we have what's going on in here. We have lighting the menorah. We have appointing 7 elders. We have the Israelites complaining. What else is new, right? Like us. Miriam and Aaron's critique on leadership. Been through that. You know, I want to give you a reminder. I talked about this last week in the portion with Brenda over in the Rooted Cafe, and we teach every Friday. 3 times, and then the third Thursday we have Jen and Robin jump in, and they do a Thursday night teaching that week, the third week of the month. So amazing, and it's free. Come on over with us. Email us at info@therootedcafe.com and tell us you want the link to that. It's a band application. We go live there, also Zoom, so you can come in and join us live. Again, we teach every week, and then afterwards we turn off the everything, and we call it the after party. So we have a time to chat and to talk. And so I want to just a little reminder, or maybe insight into this, how I do this is sit in this for a minute. Okay. I want you to sit in this and use your senses as you're reading through, you have your word, and as you're reading through it, I want you to use your senses. Okay. As you're reading each little section, I want you to close your eyes, maybe, if that helps you. What do you see? If you're looking all around you and you're reading about something, what are you seeing? First of all, what are you seeing if you're the person being discussed? So if we're talking about Aaron, if we're talking about Moses, if we're talking about the Levites, if we're talking about the woman, we did the sota, whatever it is, would you just take a minute and just, what am I seeing? And try to use your senses and imagine, and do the same thing when you're reading the Gospels. I'm walking with Yeshua. He's telling me this parable, and I'm standing next to him. What am I seeing? What is he saying? Then be the people around. Now change positions for a second. It doesn't take that long to do this. Okay. Then be the people who's watching, who's listening. Do that. Okay. And then I want you to say, what could I be smelling maybe during this? I mean, is it your imagination? Absolutely. But this is a great thing to teach your children too, so that it's an interactive experience. His word is 3-dimensional. And then what am I feeling? It could be feeling as far as my feelings, or what am I feeling as far as what am I touching? What's around me that I can touch? What does it feel like where I'm standing? One of the things we know that their shoes didn't wear out. I was teaching my grandchildren this week. We're talking about that, is their shoes and their clothes didn't wear out. So what am I feeling? And why was that important? Okay. The reason, what am I tasting? What was the manna tasting like? What was missing that I'm wanting something else? Going through that process and just going through each one of your senses as the person who might be talking or who it's about, and then do it from the other perspective of the people watching. Okay. And the really cool thing about this is that when you do that, hi, Gina. When you do that, you get this perspective that you've never gotten before, whether you're looking at what Jesus is doing or whether you're looking at what's happening into some of the prophets or the people. We're talking about the priests. What's happening? So what I think it happens is when you do this and when you sit in this 3-dimensional, go through each section and think, what does it feel like? I'm going to pretend like I'm a character. I'm going to pretend like this is a play and I'm in a character. This is going to help you start asking some of the questions that you need to ask to be good at studying or to study. All of a sudden, these why questions should start popping up. Like, okay, it says we're walking and our shoes and our clothes don't wear out. Well, why? Why is that important? Why is that a miracle? What does this feel like? What kind of shoes am I wearing? What kind of clothes am I wearing? These are why questions. They pop up and they're going to make you want to actually then start looking for these answers. And you know what? I believe that the Holy Spirit, not only the word says he will guide you in all truth, right? So when you're worried about, I want to learn something, it's too hard, or I want to do, no, he says he will guide you in all truth. Okay. But I also think that he's also going to guide you in the truth that you need to hear this week. I think he's going to guide you in the truth that you need to hear today. And not just because you're listening to me say it, but because you're actually reading it. And again, we're in Numbers. We're starting in chapter 8, right? And we're going to go through chapter 12, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and just sit in this and ask him, would you teach me this? Holy Spirit, what do I need to learn from this? I can see sitting here. I can feel things are going. I can imagine what this was like. I can imagine. Can you tell me how is this what I'm doing now? How am I doing these same things? Or how am I not doing these same things, right? Which a lot of the case may be, hopefully, some of the things you're not doing. And so I do believe that as part of your study, and I'm going to encourage, and I'm going to continue on the rest of this year, pushing and encouraging you to grow up in your study and not just be someone who's just listening and just listening to everybody else teach you. But if there's something that I say or something you hear someone else say, that you actually go in, you read it for yourself, and it doesn't have to be this big exhaustive thing, but it's that you're excited about it. Okay. So before I keep going, I just want to remind you all that second Gracie book is out. I am thrilled. Ladies are loving this with their kids. The Gracie book, it's about the story of creation. It's really fun. It's an easy read for your easy readers. So if you have a little neighbor, you could get it for them, or you have babies, but it's just cute. My dog Gracie is the star of the book, and we love it. And so there's that one. It's fun. My granddaughters have a new one they want to write. This next one they want to write. They said, can we help you, Yaya? And they wanted to write it about how rules are not there to hurt us. So when God gives us commandments, they're not because he's mad or he wants to punish us or to be mean. That rules actually keep us safe, and they're because we're loved. So when our parents make rules for us, or when God makes rules for us, it's because he or they want to keep us safe. It was really sweet. So I think we're going to be working on that in this summer. And then, of course, still, Gracie tells the story of the 10 words, which is the 10 commandments. And I really encourage these. They're really great ways to open conversations with your kiddos. Thrilled, you guys. Still, It's Not My Weed to Pull is out. My journey as a control freak. I'm recovering. Thank you very much. And relinquishing my control to the Holy One, the one who actually is in control, right? Yeah, this has been fun. I encourage you this summer. What a great summer book club. And if you have a group of women and you want me to come out, just reach out to me. You can reach out to me at info@charliebrown.com. Just an I, Charlie with an I, no E. info@charliebrown.com, and send me an email and just say that you would love for me to come out, and we'll talk about me coming out to your book club or to your women's conference or your or maybe you have a group of women for a workshop. We do a fun workshop. We have a pre-package open right now, and it includes this. It's a free download of the workbook. You get instantly an ebook. I sign a copy for you. And then next week, 3 nights, I'm going to be teaching. And so this package is only good until the 15th. So if you're listening to this later, this won't be for you, but I really encourage you to go in and get this. It includes all that. I sign it and write you a little note. And then we're teaching live. If you can't make it live, you have the videos. I promise I'm almost done. And then the workbook, it's finally available on, you can download it for free. You can go to charliebrown.com resources and download this for free. It's 80 pages, which you can print yourself, or you can go on Amazon if you're like, nope, I don't want to print it, and it's already done for you. So it's one for each chapter, which makes it for a great study if you're doing something in your congregation or we're going to do it in our neighborhood. It's going to be fun. So, okay, done. You guys, we're going to jump into right away this dedication of the Levites, and it starts out by talking about this menorah. And I kind of got stuck here. I got stuck here for a little bit, and I'm going to just share, and then I'm going to let you guys, hopefully you come back in and you, look into things and then get back to me and say, oh my gosh, this is what I found out. This is what the Holy One shared with me or opened my heart on. I am not an expert on the menorah. I'm not going to try to jump in and give you these details, but I'm going to give you some basics on this of what he spoke to my heart about. Okay. So in my translation, I'm reading out of the Tree of Life translation. I should grab my scriptures and see which one that says. I have like a bookshelf over here of multiple. I recommend you read several. I prefer the Tree of Life just for my everyday reading, but I have multiples open up, or I use Bible Hub or Blue Letter Bible, and I just pull up different translations because they're going to give you different dimension for each one. But it says in 8:4 that now talking about the menorah, and he's commanding Moses, and he says to build this according to what you've seen. So he's seen this already. Remember when he was up on Sinai, he's seen this. So this is according to what he's seen. And my version says, now this is how the menorah was made: hammered gold from its base to its blossoms, just as the pattern Adonai had shown you. So he's saying, just as I showed you, I said that already. And then mine says hammered, or I've seen some versions say, or beaten gold, solid piece. It's beaten and it's all made. It's beautiful. And it's gold. And the first thing I kind of got stuck on was this gold situation. Put on the gold jewelry today. Thank you, Elisa Rangel, for my earrings and my shirt. This was a birthday gift from her this year. Gold, the purification. I had heard the best story, and I love this story so much, and I think it's applicable here as we start talking about this gold, because everything we're going to talk about the Levites as well. We've talked about other things as far as this purification process, and we know that we'll talk about what this hammered might mean, or beaten, whatever this word is going to be. We're going to talk about it. It's the root of it is mikshe, which we'll get into. But this purification process, I heard this really great story, not a true story, I'm sure. This is just a parable. So I'm going to give you this parable to think about this process of purification as we continue on today, okay? So there was a woman comes into a shop. Beautiful objects are in there. She finds a couple things she wants to buy. She's looking around. She can't find the person that she's trying to the shopkeeper. And she's like, I need to pay for these. So she finally sees, and she hears something happening in the back. And so she's like, hello. And they say, come on back. So she goes back, and he's like, hey, I'm sorry. I can't stop what I'm doing right now. And she's like, well, I just want to pay these. How long is it going to be? He's like, I'm not really sure. I've got to finish what I'm doing, and I don't have any other help today. And so she's like, well, what are you doing? He's like, well, I'm purifying this gold. She's like, okay, well, can't you just stop right now and then just come help me and come back to it? He's like, I can't, because if I stop what I'm doing right now, the impurities that I've already, it's, the dross that he's sitting there scooping stuff off the top. As you purify gold, you get it to a certain temperature, and the impurities will come to the surface, and they skim them off. It's called the dross, right? Or they'll skim off all that impurities. And he's like, if I stop it, the impurities then will harden into this gold. I'm gonna have to start all over again, but they'll harden, and I can't do this. I've been doing this for a long time, and I don't want to stop what I'm doing right now and have to start all over. It takes forever to heat it up and to do all this stuff. She's like, okay, well, what, can you just speed it up? Can you just get it really hot and just, let's get this done, right? And he's like, I can't do that, because if I get it too hot, then what ends up happening is I'm going to end up like, it ends up scorching everything. And I can't do that. It ends up basically ruining the process. She's like, oh my goodness. Well, how long is this going to take? And he's like, again, I'm not really sure, but what I know is this. She's like, well, how do you know? He says, what I know is this. When the gold is purified and it's ready to be finished, I know because when I look into the gold, I can see my reflection. And I want you to be encouraged because that's what he's doing in your life right now. And as we're looking at this menorah, I want you to think of yourself as he's called you to be the light of the world. And we might bring that up again. You're going to be like a lampstand on up on the hill. That's who we're called to be. We're called to be that we are the tabernacle. We are called to be the priests. So everything we're going to talk about today is something we've been kind of called to do. So we can say, okay, I'm standing in the tabernacle and I'm looking at this menorah. Remember I said, what does it look like? What does it feel like? What does it smell like in here? What does it not look like? That's another thing, is what's missing. That's a thing that we forget to do. Is there's everything in the word is for a reason, whether it's there or it's not put in there for a reason, right? So he's like, so think about that. So what he's wanting is for us to reflect him. So everything we're going to go through today, everything we're learning about, isn't just for him giving a bunch of rules like I'm talking to Eliza about. Rules were to keep them safe, but it's because he wants us to look like him. Why? Again, why? Why does that matter? Why does he need us to look like him? He's him. Why does he need us to look like him? When we were created, it says we were created in his image. He always wants us back to the garden, right? Back to that ultimate image of who he is. And why? So that we encourage others to be like him. He says to be holy. The word is kedoshim, is not perfect, holy, set apart, look different, because I look different. We aren't supposed to look like what everybody else looks like. We're not supposed to act like how everybody else acts. We don't respond the way others respond. So we're going to look at this lampstand, just quickly jump into this lampstand. It's the word is miksha. It's Hebrews 47:49 for those of you who want to write that down and study it out a little more. And the root of that is mikshe, which is 47:48. And what that root means is actually it's a turned work, like hair twisted. So, kind of like a braid, twisting a braid. And my translation translated it as hammered. I'm curious if you put in comments, what is your translation? How does it translate that word? Is it a hammered? The menorah is hammered gold. What does it say? I had made a note a long time ago is that how beautiful, when we're saying I'm sitting here and looking at this menorah, how beautiful that the hammered marks on it. You would think they were imperfections, but they're not. With each thing, you'd see a new dimension of the light, right? The light would bounce off these hammered marks, and it's hammered out to be this beautiful, beautiful thing that holds the light, that lights the tabernacle, right? Okay, so it's turned and twisted. And then I went in a little deeper and I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to look at the letters of this word. That's my version says hammered. Okay, but let's say mikshe. Okay, the root of this word is mikshe in Hebrew. Doesn't sound like hammered when you're talking about twisting or braiding something, does it? Does it a twisted hair? That doesn't sound like hammered to me. So I'm asking why. So I start digging. Well, tell me more. What does this mean? Well, let me look at the letters of this word. It's a mem, it's the kuf, it's a shin, and it's a hey. Okay. So we know that the mem is, we've talked over and over about this. The mem is the thing that moves you towards something, or the revelation is what I always think is the waters moving me towards the revelation. Mem is always waters, and waters move you towards something. Okay. And then the kuf it's kind of interesting with this. It's a couple different things. They say, oh, it's the back of the head. It's the eye of a needle. But the biggest thing is it's like a mimicking letter, it's like a monkey, how it mimics things, monkey see, monkey do. It's a mimicking letter, the next letter. So, but I read something on Chabad.org. It said the negative thoughts and speech and actions that's what the kuf actually represents. Negative thoughts and speech and actions, but it invites transformation. So I was thinking about the word hammer something out. We're going to hammer this out. Something's not okay. It's negative, and we're going to invite transformation to this situation by hammering something out or solving this problem. All right, so just stay with me. And then we have the sheen, which is the fire. It's the presence of God. And then we have the hey, which is the last letter, which is revelation. So if we put that together, we make remember, we're going to make our hieroglyphic of what is this word? We're seeing these waters moving us. Water can also be chaos. Okay. At the flip of it, like waters can take you to someplace and refresh you, but it also can be chaotic. So let's say it can take the chaos, right? And the things that are mimicking the negative thoughts and the speech, but it can cause this action of transformation that's actually then when it's put through the fire. Oh, wait, this is a lampstand. It's put through this fire, and the light of the fire of the Holy One is shed on it. Then revelation is brought. Now, that's the picture of how that is to be built. So if we're to be built like, we can see Yeshua in that, right? If we're to be built like a lampstand, if we're supposed to be the light on the hill, that's him. We can see Yeshua being beaten and we can see the transformation that happened. So then we would be new creations. So the menorah's hammered out. And how are you being hammered out? So if this is hammered and I'm sitting and I'm watching this happen, I can say, Father, what in my life are you trying to hammer out? What are you trying to take that might be chaotic, that might be negative thoughts and actions? Oh, wait, we're going to talk about this. There's some negative things happening through here, right? Grumbling, complaining. How are you trying to hammer some things? People in my life might feel like they're hammering them out for me so that I then can have your fire actually bring revelation through me, because I can be light to others. What are you hammering out in me? And that could be where you stay, and you're only in like 4 verses. And I mean, I feel like that could take you out all week. You could dig a little deeper. There's 3 wicks on each side, and then the one in the middle. All of the lights directing to the middle. The light is concentrated to the center. And the sages say that the right represents spiritual activity, and the left represents temporal activity. So all of our activity should be directed towards him as our center. We see Yeshua as the center. Everything comes from that branch. Many of you who do creation gospel, y'all could teach this 1,000 times better if you want to spend some time in the Menorah. Dr. Alwine literally you could spend years studying the Menorah, the opposites of everything on that lampstand, what each one of those lampstands indicates, all of the feasts and festivals, the spirits, all the things. You can go through all of her classes. They're free. You can go to Creation Gospel, I think it's .com or .org. Make sure you put the Creation Gospel.org, I believe. And you can go to YouTube and watch book 1. You can watch everything about the Creation Gospel, and she'll take you through the lampstand. Beautiful, amazing teachings. I mean, it's tough. I mean, I have had to listen. You might have to listen to it more than once. You're like, this is crazy hard. Yeah, it is. But it's not too hard for you. And the anointing will teach you. And the Holy Spirit will guide you in all truth. So the things that you need to know for now will pop up off the page, or you'll listen to the video and just listen. You may have to listen 2 or 3 times and you're like, oh, okay, now I get it. So how deep do you want to go into the Menorah? There are options for you. Let me say, in the Rooted Cafe, for those of you who are in there, a couple things that I might have done already is, for one, in there, we have a class on the Hebrew alphabet where Brenda takes you through this beautifully, that you can look at a word in Hebrew, and you don't have to know the Hebrew language, but you could at least build out a hieroglyphic from this. Okay. That's the one thing. The second thing is we do have a mini course of the creation gospel in there where Dr. Alwine and Keisha Gallagher actually spell that out. So 2 amazing, amazing things that are in there. It'd be worth it just hopping in just for a month just to go through those 2 things. Okay, so all of our activity, everything we do is for his glory. Everything we do should reflect or go to look towards the center. I mean, again, we could spend years, and I'm not exaggerating, just talking about this lampstand and how significant it is. You can understand why you can study the word your whole life and be like, oh my goodness, I didn't even know this before. And then the next year he takes you to another thing. And the next thing he takes you to another thing. Okay. So then we jump into the priests. I'm going to see how much we can get done today. We jump into the priests. And the thing in this one that lifted up off the pages for me this year was that they will be a wave offering. And you know how much I love digging into me some offerings. I love me some sacrifices and some offerings. I'm just grasping my head around what does this look like? I'm about to put up a big old long butcher paper down my hallway and I want to start writing them all out so I can see them all. I'll take a picture when that happens. But it says there to be a wave offering, and that lifted off the page for me. And so I spent some time in it and I'm like, well, what does that mean, Father? So keep in mind that as we go through this ceremony that we are called to be a kingdom of priests. So this isn't just about then and them back then. What part of this applies to me now, today? So one of the things it says is that they were presented 2 times in this sections, once for their work and service in the sanctuary, and once in their tasks of carrying. I'm going to come back to the wave offering, by the way, and then once in the task of carrying the tabernacle when the nation traveled. So they're presented twice, right? The wave offering, I think, happens 3 times. I'll go back and count. How are we presented? Father, how am I presented? Well, what came to my heart was that I'm presented to bear one another's burdens. I get to lift heavy things sometimes. Sometimes we talk about this often. If we're a kingdom, how are we helping others process their stuff? Through love, right? Truth and love, but also helping them process things and not bringing them shame. And then I was thinking we're also presented to be a representative of the kingdom, whereas the Levites were presented to be this representative. We are too. So the root of that is nuf for that wave offering. Let's jump back. And it's H5130 for my scholars who want to go in and look it up. The root of that wave offering. And in the biblical tradition, this act of offering sacrifices, we talked about korbanot. That word I didn't find. It just says nuf, right? And I'll come to it's tenufah is the word, and the nuf is the root. Okay. But it played a significant role in this whole worship process. Okay. So among all the different offerings, they would hold some kind of a particular significance, holding something up and waving it. It was a wave offering. Okay. Well, this sacred gesture is known again as tenufah in Hebrew. And it was a really unique way of presenting offerings to God. So in Hebrew, this term tenufah is derived from the root, I said nuf, meaning to wave or to lift up. Well, it's interesting because we had naso was to lift up, and our last week. And now we're going to be talking about the Kohanim, the Levites are going to be lifted up in this way. They are to be a wave offering that is lifted up to the Holy One. They're going to be the first fruits, right? The firstborn. This wave offering was performed by various types of offerings, such as first fruits, grain offerings, portions of animal sacrifices. But this ritual wave, let's talk about the ritual of this wave offering. During this wave offering, the priest would actually take whatever the designated portion of this offering was, and they would hold it before the offering, and they would move it back and forth and up and down in this waving motion. Okay. This gesture symbolized presenting the offering to God and dedicating it for his service. So if we think of these Levites, they're being brought before and they're lifting them up and waving them back and forth. I mean, not literally, right? They're not picking the whole up and waving them up. I don't think so. But if you know different, type it in the comments. But can you imagine if this gesture symbolizes presenting the offering to God and dedicating it for his service? Doesn't that make sense that the Levites then are the wave offering? They're to be a wave offering unto the Father. That makes sense because they're dedicating themselves for his service. And then the waving motion was actually this visible acknowledgement that the offering belongs to God and was given with gratitude and with reverence. You're going to notice a theme as you read through this chapters 8, 9, 10, and 11, and 12. I want you to think of that word gratitude. And I know one of the things we did with the girls yesterday in a little lesson that we did with them was for them to, in these frames, to draw pictures and color pictures of 4 things they were grateful for. Because grumbling and complaining is the opposite of gratitude, is that contronym, right? The chaotic version of what's going to bring revelation. And we talked couple weeks ago about when I'm speaking negative, when I am not grateful and I'm just grumbling and complaining, I am missing opportunities. It keeps me from seeing opportunities. Go back a couple weeks. I think that was so powerful to me. So this wave offering is in gratitude and reverence. And then, so what's the significance? Okay, so dedication and consecration. The wave offering represented this fact of dedicating myself or my possessions. I think as the Levites will see that this dedication was not just these possessions, but they're saying they were presented themselves as a wave offering. So they were saying that I'm dedicating myself and all my possessions because they were to rely solely on the Holy One to bring them provision, right? And it signified this acknowledgement that all their blessings, all their provisions come from God. And by offering a portion back to him, the Israelites recognized his sovereignty and their dependence on him. Weren't the Levites having to ultimately depend on him? Okay, so let's circle back. If we, you, me, if we're a kingdom of priests, am I a wave offering? Am I a sacrifice of praise? Am I lifting up? Am I offering myself and resubmitting myself every day to him and saying, Lord, I lay down my will. Lord, I lay down any way that I have. And am I submitting it all? And Father, I thank you for everything you provided. I'm not my provider. Forgive me for grumbling and complaining. Because when I grumble and I complain, I'm saying that you don't know what you're doing and you're not good at your job taking care of me. It also represented surrender and trust. The act of when they waved this offering, it was this expression of trust and surrender to God's divine will. Did you hear that in my prayer? Father, it's not my will, but yours be done. So literally by physically relinquishing this control over of this offering, the Israelites demonstrated their faith that God's going to accept and bless their offering according to his wisdom and his purposes. And then it also represented unity and communion. See, this wave offering had a communal aspect. See, it symbolized the unity and the shared responsibilities of Israelite community in worshiping God. That was the community. So as I say these, I want you to think, well, how does that apply to these priests, this kingdom of priests, these Levites? And then how does it apply to me? Because if I'm part of the kingdom of priests now, how does that apply to me? So as each person presented their offering through this wave offering, they would participate in this collective act of worship. And it reinforced the bonds between fellowship and community. So I'd love to hear from you. What are some ways that you feel like this could tie to a priest, the Kohanim, these Levites? This collective act of worship, they were this act of worship. They were the offering. They were being lifted up. They weren't being thrown on an altar, but they were being lifted up before him and surrendering everything to them. And like I said, it also represented gratitude and thanksgiving. This wave offering was often accompanied by prayers of thanksgiving and gratitude for God's provision. And it served as a reminder that the Israelites, they would acknowledge and express their gratitude for any blessings they've received, the crops, whatever. And it fostered this attitude of thankfulness. And here's a big word, contentment. We hear Paul talk about that. I am thankful and content in all things, in much and in little. Can I present that to you today? Are you content? That's the second word. We have gratitude. We're going to see that as a theme, but I think you're going to see that theme of contentment. These Levites are being said, you are to be content. You being this wave offering is saying you are content, giving up your will, giving up your ways. Many of you are called to ministry full-time, like myself, others of you, and you're saying, I'm going to trust God to be my provider. I'm going to trust God that I will have to rely on others because he'll use others to actually fund things I need to do. I have friends recently, was last night we were able to go, they just closed escrow on a house and I'm so thrilled for them. And it's a testimony, it's theirs to share someday, but the testimony, the bottom line was the Holy One provided a home for them. They haven't owned a home in years and the Holy One honored their work, their Levitical work and diligence teaching his word. And someone got a house for them and it's amazing. It's exciting. It's everything they wanted. I'm thrilled for them, but it was just really reinforced this right here. It serves as a reminder to be thankful and to be content. So how do we apply this today? I think this may no longer be a practice. We're not going and doing wave offerings of any kind of manner, but what we can do is talk about dedication and stewardship. We can recognize that everything is a gift from God, everything. So we don't covet because we're saying that he messed up giving that to them and it should have been given to me. We don't gripe and complain about what we don't have because we are trusting that he gave us exactly what we were supposed to have and that we're the man or the woman for this job. We can dedicate our time, our resources, our talents to serve him and to serve others, right? Acknowledging our role as stewards of his blessings. Man, he has been working with me on this stewardship in every little thing. I'm telling you, down to little stuff. Like, how are you stewarding this? Not just your talents, but I'll talk to you right now. What talent have you hidden in the ground and not stewarding it well? Because you're afraid. You're allowing fear to be your God, as opposed to being that afraid or that reverent fear of standing before the landowner and the king and him asking you, what did you do with what I gave you? And you don't want him to take it away and give it to someone else who's actually being a good steward of the talents and the time. Your time. How are you stewarding your time? I mean, I'm convicted of this often, and many people will be like, oh my gosh, you get so much done. It's not, my goal is, and my heart's cry to the Holy One is that I could be a good steward of my time, of my money, of my talents. Surrender and trust. That's another one. Surrender and trust is how we can do this now. As a kingdom of priests, as a wave offering of ourselves, we are this wave offering now. We can embrace and a posture of surrender. Embrace a posture of trust in God's providence. It allows us to actually release our worries and our anxieties, and we know that he is in control. Now you know the diary of a control freak. For all my guys, girls out there struggling with control, maybe you're like, well, I've heard people, well, I'm not a control freak. Maybe, it's tongue in cheek. I'm joking. Most of us have issues with control. We want to control things. We're being helpful. We think we're helping and we're not. We see a control freak as someone who's aggressive and all in your, not always. They're subtle sometimes, passive aggressive. Well, if that works for you, causing guilt and shame. But that's not him being in control. When we're releasing worry, control just comes out of fear. When you're afraid, you start to try to control things. However it looks like in your environment, and you can be in denial or not, but we all struggle with control. Women, I'm sorry to tell you, but it's part of the curse. Go back, do the study, look it up. It's part of the curse. When it says that we will, the whole struggle with our husbands, that was control. We will fight for control. That's the struggle. And the struggle is real, my friend, real. Now, how does it look like? You may be manipulation. You may be manipulating and you're like, I'm worried or I have anxiety about something. So I'm not aggressive about it. I might be passive aggressive and I might manipulate, or I might use some feminine wiles to get what I need to control the situation, whatever it is. Just spend some time with him about that, because this is how we can offer this up and we can release this to him. And that's how we can walk this out today. And that in doing this, we can trust that God's going to guide us. He's going to bless our offerings of service, our sacrifice, and our obedience. It may not happen instantly. I've walked a period of my time. I was sharing my testimony with someone where I was angry because I felt like horrible things happened to me. And I had just given my whole life to God. How could, this is years ago, how could God let this happen? I see now, I wish I had to walk that out differently. I wish I would have released it. I wish I would have been in a different place where I could have said, oh, Father, I trust you. You're going to Romans 8:28 all over this. You will work this for my good. You have a plan and a purpose. You said in Jeremiah 29:11 that you have a plan and a purpose for me, not to harm me, but good. I'm to prosper. So somehow you're going to work this all. I don't know. I don't see it, but I'm surrendering. I'm going to just wave up my will. I'm going to wave things up to you. Can you do that today? What are you struggling with that you're holding really tight to that's causing the angst and the things going on in you? Okay, another way we go is community and fellowship. Engaging in this communal worship and service, it actually deepens our connection to others. And it actually fosters a sense of unity. I mean, after COVID, it was really difficult. A lot of us have pulled out of congregations, pulled away from people. We actually need to be with people. Part of this surrendering our will and our way, we need others in our lives to help us walk this out. So by joining with fellow believers, we encourage and support one another, and we help make our journey stronger, help each other hit the mark. And obviously, we can walk in this right now using gratitude and contentment, which is words we used earlier. We can cultivate an attitude of gratitude and recognize the blessings in our lives actually enables us to express thankfulness to God. I mean, we can cultivate contentment and joy by actually acknowledging that his faithfulness and provision is exactly what it's supposed to be right now. This wave offering or this tenufa, it held profound spiritual significance in biblical worship. And it represented dedication, surrender, unity, gratitude. And even though we don't practice this anymore, it's not this special ritual we do anymore, we can surely, I hope you see, and I would love to hear ways, please type in the comments or email me. We can incorporate these principles in our lives now. How? By dedicating ourselves, surrendering to God's will, fostering unity, expressing gratitude. All of it is to deepen a connection with him, and that our lives, we get close to him, and that our lives are a living sacrifice. Oh, wait, what does that mean? A living sacrifice? How is that possible? Holy and exalted. With God, honoring him, pleasing him. Isn't that cool? I think we get to still do this. It's not just for back in the olden days, as my granddaughter. Is that back in the olden days? Yeah, like in the 90s? All the time she says this. That's like back in the olden days, huh? Yeah, like the 90s. Yes, honey, that's the olden days. Next section we talk about is water purification. It talks about the in chapter 8, verse 7, the ashes of this. Know that this water was the ashes of the red heifer. It was sprinkled into the water and was sprinkled on them. And this was only used, by the way, for those that were contaminated, remember, with a human corpse, and they're purified. So Hebrews 9:13 is a shot back to this. It's a hyperlink back. So you put a little note in your stuff, Hebrews 9:13, and think about, okay, I'm sitting here now, and if I'm a priest, if I'm the person, why now? What is significant, or what is something that would represent that now would be that water of purification. And the only thing that came to me was this, is I touch dead things often. Things in my life, things that I shouldn't touch, things that are not bringing life, but they're bringing death. I listen to things or say things that are bringing death. Listen to things that bring death. Do you hear me? Not just that I say it. You might have control over this a little better this year, but you have control over what you're listening to. So there's dead things, and I have to remember that I have to ask him to cleanse me, purify my heart. Look at this cry out of David. Change my heart, oh God. Make it ever true, right? Let the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart, Father, be acceptable in your sight. Oh, Father, sprinkle us now, Father, with those things now. Thank you. And then we hop into 70 elders. Let me see if I keep up with this. Where are we at? We go into, let me scooch along. We have the second month Passover. And hold on, I got little kids out here yelling. Sorry about that, guys. I hope you can't hear it. 70 elders. We have that. I'm going to hop into that section is where we're checking on these 70 elders. And I actually want to read, we're going to hop all the way to 11. I just will go through just quickly. We go through the second Passover, which is great for those people who needed to celebrate the second Passover. You might not have been in town. You weren't able to celebrate the first Passover the Father gave you. It was so important that they gave you a second one. So for those of you who didn't know that, that's where you can find all the information about that is in chapter 9, that second Passover month. And then in chapter 9, it also talks about the cloud as the guide. And this is beautiful. It was talking about, I love that as they're encamping, he's saying that all the days this cloud remained over the tabernacle and they would remain in the camp. So when it was there resting, they were to remain in the camp. He gave them opportunity to rest in between the things. They were able to rest, right? And it said that then, I love this part of chapter 9. It says, when the cloud would remain over the tabernacle many days, Bnei Israel would obey the commands of Adonai and not set out. At times, the cloud stayed over the tabernacle only a few days. And Adonai's word, they would encamp, and at Adonai's word, they would set out. You could sit in that, do what I said, go through the 5 senses. What would it be like? Oh, the cloud stopped. Okay, guys, we're stopping. Everybody, let's say the tabernacle goes up. Everyone, it could be a few days. I don't know. We were on the road. Many of you know, Randy and I traveled for a few years full time in an RV, and for 2 years and it was some days we stayed a few days and some days we stayed many days. Some days we stayed one night. It's a lot of work tearing down and building up. So spending some time in this and thinking about the people that they're putting it all together just for a few days. And then some days they sat and then you're just waiting. Like, do we go yet? Now for me, that feels like limbo. I'd be like, how about now? Are we leaving? Oh, I think I saw that. Oh, is the cloud moving? No, it's the same. Oh, sorry. No, that was a bird. Okay. It's still here. Okay, you guys, we're still here today. Every day they were dependent on if they were coming or going. Where are we go? What are we staying? I should say leaving or staying. Should I stay or should I go now? Every day. What's happening? Do you live like that? Do you live like that? Like today, Father, do I need to just sit in your presence? Today, Father, what are you telling me to move in? What are you telling me to move in? And what are you telling me to sit in and just be? What a beautiful education that would have been, and how painful for me that would have been. Anybody else? Anyone be like, this would have killed me. I could have handled the manna. I could have handled like getting my water from a rock. I could have handled like all the stuff going on. But girl, when you have me in limbo and I'm not sure of the plan, I need to have like an itinerary. I have things planned out. I need to, and I don't know. He's not giving me his plan. Like today we're leaving. And then just so you know, we're going here. Like he doesn't give them a map and doesn't give them the itinerary. They're just knowing that they're headed to a promise. Isn't that a story of our life? I don't even know if we're going to get any farther now, right? I didn't even plan on this. Is this our life, y'all? He doesn't give us an itinerary for what you're doing right now. And some of us are so stressed out, anxious, frustrated, all those things, trying to control everything around us because we don't know what's going on. We don't know what the plan is. And he's saying, I'm sitting for a minute with you. Would you just be with me? We're just going to be for a few days, a few months, a few years. We're going to just be. Is that where you're at? Are you struggling because things aren't happening like you think they're supposed to happen? Or he's not making you privy to his calendar. I mean, you know his calendar as far as you know the celebrations and you know when his Sabbath, that's all he's saying you need to know. The rest is nunya. None of your business. Because he just wants you close to him. And it said, and then at his word, they would set out. Are you waiting for his word before you set out? Or are you jumping into things? And then what happens when you're jumping and you're going? He's not with you and it's hard. Unless the Lord builds the house, they labor in vain. Unless the Lord moves the cloud, you are on your own. You are on your own. It is scary. You'll see also in here, he talks about days of rejoicing. If we go into the silver trumpets for the assembly, go through this, talking about when they blew the trumpets. There were days for rejoicing, feasts, new moons. You'd blow the trumpets. He wants you to party. He wants you to party. He wants you to do all the fun things. And then we're going to go through this journey of Sinai. We start in 10 verse 11. Then we start that, right? And then it's talking about who's carrying the tabernacle, who's erecting it. We're going to scooch on down. I mean, I would recommend, if you ever have a minute, sit down, and maybe your older kids, if you're homeschooling, have them look up each one of these tribes, each one of the names that you see pop up, the places that pop up, find them on the map, be in it. What's going on here? And we keep on going. We're going to keep on going, and we're walking and we're walking. And we're going to start chapter 11, these 70 elders. And I want to speak to my leaders right now, because we see these people, and these people are they're grumbling. It says in verse 1 of chapter 11, the people were murmuring in the ears of Adonai about hardships. When Adonai heard, his anger burned, the fire of Adonai blazing among them, ravaging the outskirts of the camp. Can I just say, if you spend time in that and you actually look what that means, I want you to know this isn't God being mad and trying to kill them. This is him trying to draw them. If they're blazing outside the camp, why is it outside the camp? Ask the questions. Well, what would happen if you have a fire blazing outside the camp? What would it cause you to do? What would it cause you to do? Are you yelling it out loud? Are you yelling it at me and I can't hear you? What would it cause you to do? It would cause you to run to the center, wouldn't it? Run to the safe place. I'm going to go where there's no fire, and I'm definitely not going to go farther where I don't even know what that is. There's like armies and snakes and crazy things out there. I'm going to run to the center. That's what I'm going to do. And look up what is his anger raged. What does that really mean? I would really love you guys to spend some time in that. Because we know he's so full of love. His anger doesn't look like us. It's about him saying, I love you so much that I'm going to bring a correction that's going to bring you into my presence. And I'm going to bring you into, and that's what I see is him having them run into, right? And then it says the people cried out to Moses, and Moses prayed to Adonai, and the fire died out. The name of the place was called Taberah, because of the fire from Adonai had burned among them. I would love for you guys to spend some time in that. What is burning around you and you're not even noticing? What's burning all around you? And he's trying to get you to the center. He's trying to get you to stop complaining and see, it could be worse. We could be consumed by fire. You're going to see later. Oh, guess what could happen? Oh, wait, he could lift up the shield around them, where the snakes and scorpions were not killing them and biting them in their sleep. They weren't waking up and there was a poisonous snake in their bed with them. That wasn't happening. He was holding them back. And when they were grumbling, complaining, and he lifts up that shield, all of a sudden, we'll be reading about that later. All of a sudden, it's not in this one. I think it's next month. Is this next portion? All of a sudden, the snakes will start coming in. I mean, this fire, he's like, it could be worse. What's burning around you? And he's saying, I want you to come back in the center. He might be burning friends away from you. He might be burning opportunities away from you. And you're upset and grumbling and complaining about it, but then he's trying to get you to run to the center. For me, I know for my husband and I, he has closed businesses because we thought, we're going to do all that. It was taking too much time. It was not something he had ordained. It was for a season, and it was time to let it go, and we weren't ready to let it go, and he will get rid of it. What is he setting on fire? And you're fighting against it. You're just trying to put the fire out yourself instead of running to the center and letting him put the fire out. You're trying to do fire control. And he's saying, get into the center. If he started it, he'll pay for it. He'll put the fire out for it, and he'll take you to the new thing. And then and then he brings manna. Oh my gosh, we're going to go, And then Moshe's like, you have all these people grumbling and complaining. I put armchair quarterbacking. You should do this. We should. They're shooting all over everything. We should this. I love armchair quarterbacking. Never ran a thing in your life, but you're going to tell everybody else what to do. Sorry's not sorry. Not coming with a solution, not coming with how I could possibly help, or here's some of my ideas. Hey, I've noticed this is an issue. I'm going to challenge you. If you go to a leader and you feel like they should be doing something different, first of all, pray and ask yourself, does this need to be said? Am I the one that needs to say it? And is now the time to say it? And then ask for some solutions to bring to help be part of the solution, and not just identifying all the problems and everything. That, for those of you who don't have control issues, is totally a control issue. You're identifying, troubleshooting, identifying the problems and everything. Armchair quarterbacking. And I'm going to read these verses where he says, so Moses asked Adonai, how much time do I have? 5, not even 2 minutes. Okay. Why have you brought trouble on your servant? I'm going to have to paraphrase. Basically, he's saying, did I give birth to all these babies? I didn't give birth to these babies. You're the one who put me here. You're the one who gave me all these people. I did not do this. It's all you. This load is too heavy for me. Have you prayed that prayer? Because I have. This load is too heavy for me. If this is how you're going to treat me, then just kill me. I want out of this. He can handle it. For you to come to him and tell him it's heavy. This burden seems heavy. This job is too heavy. I don't know what to do. He is okay with you coming to him and saying you don't know how and you need help. And he says, okay, that get 70 elders. And he divides up some of this anointing, which is a whole nother day's teaching. And then Moses says, I got to keep on going. I'm going to scooch down. They're all saying, why did we even leave Egypt? And then Moses said, 600,000 foot soldiers, the people I'm in the middle of. And yet you say, I'm going to give them meat to eat for an entire month. He's like, do you realize how many people there are? How are you going to give meat? And now he's questioning, how are you going to do this? And God says to him in verse 23, is Adonai's arm too short? Now you will see whether my word will come true for you or not. And I want to stop right there. What has he told you? What has he promised you? Because he's saying to you today, is my arm too short? Is my arm too short for you? No. You're crying out and begging for something, and he's saying, my arm is not too short for this. Step back and see, because I'm about to do something. He's about to make a way where there's no way. Brother, sister, his arm is not too short to save you. It looks impossible. Moses has seen him do amazing, crazy things, and he's saying, really? Is my arm too short? I want to tell you today, let's confess. Father, we just give it up to you. We give up our will, our way, our provision, our grumbling, our complaining. Father, we know that it's your plan and your way. We're going to just release. We're going to stay when you say stay. We're going to go when you say go. We're going to rest in you, Father. And we're going to taste and see your goodness. And we're going to know that your arm is not too short. Have a blessed week, and I can't wait to see you next week. Please leave me messages and comments, like, subscribe, share with all your friends on YouTube. Bye-bye.
זה שיר פשוט, זה שיר קצר, אולי נשמע טיפה מוזר, אבל תדע, כי זו עובדה, שאלוהים אוהב אותך, והוא רואה, והוא שומע, ואכפת לו מכל דבר קטן. תדע לך שזו עובדה, שאלוהים אוהב אותך.
זה שיר פשוט, זה שיר קצר, אולי נשמע טיפה מוזר, אבל תדע, כי זו עובדה, שאלוהים אוהב אותך.
We are richly blessed to bring you what we believe is the fullest, most diverse, yet up-to-date progressive teachings, discussion, and prayer programming you can find anywhere on this planet. Be sure to take the tour of the MessianicLambRadio.com website. I'm Susan Hoogie, thanking you for joining us on the Messianic Lamb Video Network.